Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Now, it's been my experience that a good werewolf film is hard to come by. And a lot of the reason for this is that it costs a lot to make a werewolf suit, especially if you do a practical special effects. It's hard to make the werewolf look realistic. It's also very expensive. It's been done in a few movies. I'm going to throw out a few of my favorite werewolf movies here in just a second, but it's also now in modern times, a lot of times they instead of, since it is so hard to make a realistic looking werewolf, they a lot of times will go to CGI, and it's just not as good. But they do have some CGI werewolf movies that are still fine. Now, some of what I consider to be the best werewolf movies are the original Wolfman and some of the sequels, An American Werewolf in London, which has probably the best practical effect werewolf transformation ever. I do have a soft spot for Silver Bullet, and also liked even though it is kind of an indie werewolf film, but Ginger Snaps is really well done, especially the first one. There were two sequels to this. Now, the film we're going to talk about today is a new Vinegar Syndrome 4K release, and we're going to talk about The Howling Part 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. Now, this is a sequel, and it is the only direct sequel to The Howling, which is based on a novel, I believe, called The Howling. The first one is a good I really like the way the werewolves look in the first Howling film. They look really good. The script is pretty good. This one was directed by Joe Dante, and it has a lot of very, very interesting character actors in it. Now, this one launched a franchise of 8 films, but really only the first one is a good movie. Though the first one isn't, it still has some stuff in it that's kind of a little off-putting. Here we're at with a sequel to it, The Howling II, and this is a very mixed bag film, and it's a very bizarre script, and it has a little bit of a tie to the first one. You know, it's called, like, the subtitle in this is your sister is a werewolf, which is a real pretty dumb title. They should have just called it like The Howling 2. The original, they try to call it like Stirba Werewolf Bitch or something like that, but then they didn't like the word bitch being in the title. In some regions, they're like, no, that's not going to fly. But something like even The Howling 2, or even The Howling with Stirba something, I don't know. Stirba's this one of the main werewolves in the film, and a fairly interesting and a pretty good character, which we'll talk about her here in just a little bit. As far as its connection to the first film, it is a little slight. So I guess who you would consider the main character, played by an actor named Reb Brown. Now, Reb Brown was originally a football player, and he eventually would play Captain America in some made-for-TV films, and he played Yor the Hunter, Y-O-R, the Hunter from the Future. Here he plays the brother of Dee Wallace's character from the first Howling. Now, she turns into a werewolf at the end of it, and they shoot her, and she gets like silver bullets in her, so it kills her. And so he attends her funeral, and then Christopher Lee's character shows up all ominous. He plays Stefan, and this other character, Jenny, who's a family friend, is also there, played by Annie McEnroe. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. It's weird because this film, to me, it seems like, and this is probably the case, seems to stem from a script that was probably a vampire script, because a lot of the rules here with the werewolves don't really make a lot of sense, and they don't even within the movie itself. There's just some bizarre stuff going on that doesn't really add up in a lot of ways. Now, for example, the sister gets silver bullet shot into her, and then they were removed during the autopsy. So they were like, okay, now Christopher Lee's character, like, she's going to come back alive, but not until after dark. You know, like, that's a werewolf thing. I mean, to me, that seems like a vampire thing. They're going to come to life after dark. So, and then she comes to life, and then they stab her again with the silver, like, or titanium thing into, which I guess kills her at that point. But it's like if the silver bullets are shot into her, and then they take them out, and then they stab some kind of titanium thing into her and pull it out, or leave it in her. I mean, what if someone else pulls it out? Does she come back? And it's like she's a werewolf. It's not a vampire. So is it really necessary to kill her? Could they maybe work around it? But Dee Wallace didn't come back for the sequel. They have another actress playing her, and it's a very brief performance. You see her in the coffin a few times, and you see her wake up. All that's really kind of, I don't know. Really, the film could have done without any of that. Stirba is the driving force to this film, and once they get past the sister, they kill her, and then the brother Ben is like, okay, I'm going with you now. We're gonna stop all these other werewolves. And then the other girl, Jenny, I guess woman who I guess she's kind of got a crush on Ben. She's like, okay, I'm going with you too. So then the three of them go to Transylvania. That's where Stirba, the werewolf queen, is. Now here's another vampire thing going on here. Now Stirba has been alive about 10,000 years, and there's a lot of lots going on here. Now she's been alive for 10,000 years, and the way she does it is they bring her like a victim. In this one, it seems to be like a woman in a white dress who's probably a virgin, and then she sucks the life force out of her, and that makes her young again, or gives her additional life. And she's been doing this, I guess, for 10,000 years. Again, another vampire-y type of thing, or demon, or something, not werewolf. So I don't. There's some mixed stuff going on, but it doesn't necessarily make it unwatchable. I think that it kind of might mess with your head. It kind of makes you a little. To me, when I'm watching it, I couldn't enjoy it completely, even though it's a complete train wreck, and it eventually becomes more enjoyable as you get further into the film. But just because of just the illogical connections between one scene to the next, and between the characters and their decisions, it was kind of hurting my head a little bit in a way it probably shouldn't have, because maybe I was overthinking it and just not going with the flow of it, because it is a kind of a batshit crazy movie that doesn't make a lot of and if you think about, like, if you say, hey, I guess you just gotta. They're really messing with the rules here. They don't define the rules. I guess that's the thing. Is you're dealing with fantasy or fiction here, but you still need to, in some way, define what the rules are, and if you want to change them, that's fine later on. But you have to kind of establish the rules, and you have to figure out how they can be changed. It just seems like they're just going from one thing to the next, and more crazy stuff's going on. As far as the actors, now Christopher Lee playing Stefan, he brings his A game like he typically does, and a lot of the times when he's in a scene, it almost seems like an old Hammer movie. Like, he does have that kind of pull, like Gravatis type of thing. Like, hey, I'm Christopher Lee, check it out, I'm here. I'm gonna kill this scene. We're gonna make this thing like a really heavy scene. And really, when he's on screen, it is a good thing. So in this film, he wanted to do it because he'd never done a werewolf film before. Now, for those who think he was in The Beast Must Die, that wasn't him. That was Peter Cushing. But this is another werewolf film, and it's an okay one. It's not that good. So Christopher Lee was offered the part that Donald Pleasance played, Dr. Loomis, in the original Halloween, which he turned down. I'm sure he later regretted, and that may have also been part of his decision to go to pick up this part in the Howling II, which he later apologized to Joe Dante. Joe Dante cast him in Gremlins 2, and he apologized to him for being in the film, Joe Dante being the director of the original Howling movie. The other actors, who were playing the other two main characters, Ben and Jenny, Reb Brown and Annie McEnroe, they're not that, especially, I don't know if later on they may have developed better acting skills, but they're not very good in this film. I think they are both a little, they are relatively likable, which is a good thing. They are likable, and there's a point when all of a sudden out of nowhere they like hook up, and I was okay with that. I was like, okay, I could feel something like that happening. And I like the way it was so sudden too. It's like, okay, she doesn't seem like the kind of person that would do it, and suddenly that she's like, okay, they're checking into the hotel, and they're like, he's like, we'll have 2 bedrooms, and she's like, no, we'll just do 1, and next thing you know, they're up in the bedroom doing all that, and all the werewolf. Now, this movie is a nut. This thing will make your head hurt just thinking about some of the logical stuff that happens here. So they go to Transylvania. It seems like almost everybody there is a werewolf. Everywhere they go, like somebody's a werewolf, and and so a lot of times when you get to the point where you're like, or the werewolf, you don't see the werewolves doing a lot of what you would consider a bad werewolf thing. To me, a bad werewolf thing would be the werewolf goes and eats a kid or goes and eats somebody. But it seems like anytime anybody gets attacked or bitten by the werewolf, it's like they're the next werewolf. So it's like at this point, it's like the werewolves are more of a, hey, we're taking over. We're not like just killing people just because we're hungry sort of thing. And I think a lot of that has to stems from the script being a vampire script and not a werewolf script. The locations here are relatively amazing. They went to Czechoslovakia, and they have some very nice locations. They have a street fair where they got these people in some really crazy looking masks going on, and it's supposed to be in Transylvania. And I mean, it looks like it. They're doing. But some reason they go on with this street fair for several days. Are they out there like all the time doing it? I don't know. It kind of seems that way. And then they have these tomb inside of a church, and they have these tomb catacomb things. I don't know. Some of them, I think they're all like real locations. So there may be some sets going on here, but I think majority of it's real locations, and they got very lucky with the locations. The special effects, on the other hand, are so now. I'm not going to say they're bad. I think they were very limited. Now I was looking through this. It came with this book, and what happened? They instead of getting werewolf suits shipped to them, the production company sent them suits that were the Planet of the Apes instead of werewolves. So they're like, what are we gonna? You send us the wrong suits, and they're like, we'll be creative, figure it out. So a lot of times they had to use the Planet of the Apes werewolf suits as the werewolves, and so they tried not to show them very much. But they at the same time they do show them, and they use what seems to me maybe insert shots from the first film. And it's the editing with that is very bizarre. You see like a werewolf paw or a monkey paw like this, and then it cuts to like a quick shot of another werewolf from the first film. Probably, is what my assumption is. Some of the prosthetic makeup is very well done on some people when they're not in the full wolf costumes and they just have some wolf, like partially wolf makeup on. They look terrific. They should have just like went more with that, because then the actors get to act more too when they got those prosthetics on. And when they're full wolf, they could have had some reason why they didn't go full wolf. Clearly I could think of a lot of things I could think just to kind of fix some of the plot holes here, but it's not going to help anything. I was reading that maybe it was the director kind of was trying to make it a comedy a little bit for a while, and then when they went to release it or show it to the production company there, they didn't like the comedy bits, so they had to cut them out. I think maybe with the comedy bits in there, maybe it might help the flow better, maybe not. It might make it more ridiculous, because some of these actors don't seem like they could pull off the comedy bits that is implied here. The actors from the first one, like Robert Picardo and Slim Pickens, those type of actors could pull off some of this comedy stuff, but I don't think these actors could have pulled it off in a effective way. With the first Howling movie, one thing that's kind of always stuck out to me is they went for the werewolf sex. They got a werewolf sex scene. So here they got even more werewolf sex scenes. They got a orgy, kind of a werewolf orgy sort of thing, and then they have a werewolf threesome. And it's interesting. I don't know. It's kind of it works. But I guess they kind of felt like they needed to have that. Now the actress playing Stirba, who is the demon queen, who's a werewolf, she wears this kind of dominatrix suit that's pretty famous. I think it's like a black leather suit with some gold clad stuff in there. Apparently the actress didn't really want to do nude, that she was known for doing nude. It was Sybil Danning. She was known for doing more nude scenes, and that's why the director hired her to begin with. She didn't really want to do it, but he talked her into doing one nude scene where she takes off part of her thing, and she takes off her second part, and you see both their breasts briefly, and she's all like this, and it's a pretty cool shot. And for some reason, the director during the end credits, he like thought it would be a good idea to just put that in the end credits, like cut back to it like 17 times, and then it cuts to her taking her clothes off again, and it cuts to another actor doing a different reaction. Looks like maybe the actor is reacting to seeing her boobs or something, and it becomes almost it's comical, but it's definitely bizarre, and it becomes like, what? I mean, it's almost like just watching it is like watching a train wreck, and it's like, what was he thinking doing that? And apparently it angered the actress because she didn't really want that to happen, and it was just a bizarre decision, and really a hilarious one to me. And it is something that, even though it's like really, I don't even know, the movie just kind of ends in an odd way anyway, so I guess it kind of makes you think about and stop thinking about how bizarre and the end was, and think about her boobs and just these character like outtakes of characters' reactions who may or may not be reacted to seeing them. So this is a 1985 film, and the 80s are in full swing here, kinda. During certain scenes, like the werewolf orgy, for instance, they have a rock band up there singing, the kind of very 80s style rock band up there singing some song that has the howling in the song, the title of the film in the song over and over again. You have that going on, but you also have some 80s kind of type of special effects stuff that was pretty cool. Like Stirba carries this staff with her that has like this kind of bat looking monster thing on it, like puppet thing, that eventually comes to life and kills this priest. And you have these really awesome practical gore effects, like it goes into the priest's head and that rips his face and his eyes like bulge out, and you got that kind of cool stuff that's happening. And then you got this little person who's one of the good guys at first, and she's got some other werewolf powers that aren't even werewolf powers. She's able to scream, and she's doing some kind of scream or something, and then it makes his eyes like pop out of his head too. And then he comes back as a ghoul type of creature, and he tries to attack Christopher Lee's character. And he's like, then the football player guy, Ben, has to catch him and throws him out a window, and he goes out the window, lands on these spikes. Now all that is pretty cool stuff, though it is kind of mind-boggling, the whole thing. There's a big WTF factor here in general, but I guess if you can get past like ignoring the logical, or even like thinking that it's funny that there's just these huge leaps in logic constantly throughout the film, and maybe you can enjoy it. Now let's take a look at the packaging here. Vinegar Syndrome did a nice job, especially on this cover art. You got Christopher Lee Stefan character. There's Ben holding a gun, and you have the Jenny character. And there's Stirba right in the center, as she should be. And I think that's Stirba there too. She kind of at one point turns into this kind of werewolf that looks like she's got like a Fu Manchu beard thing going on. Yeah, that's something that happens in this film. And there's this other African American werewolf, Marsha Hunt plays her, and she typically looks better than this. That's when she's in werewolf makeup, but she looks pretty hot. She's got a few scenes where she's nude in it. On the back we have again, there's Marsha Hunt again and Christopher Lee. And then there's this ceremony here where they all do this very occult ceremony where they bring the Virgin, I assume, in a white dress, and Stirba sucks her soul out and all that. Like, happens. All right. On the inside, you have this. Now, there is a 4K disc and a Blu-ray disc, and there's also a booklet. Now the booklet has a lot of information in it. I did read over some of it, and it tells about the production stuff that happened. A lot of crazy stuff happened during the production, and the director just kind of had to go with the punches on it. The director, who was Philippe Mora. As far as the transfer, it says 4K UHD disc contains a 91-minute feature presentation of Howling II, Your Sister is a Werewolf, newly scanned and restored from its 35mm camera negative and presented in Dolby Vision. Now it is restored in its 35mm camera negative. I think as far as the transfer, everything looks fairly clean, looks very organic. For the most part, in most situations, people The faces look very sharp. There are some places where you have some soft focus. That was probably just a problem with the film itself. You're not going to be able to fix that at this point unless you use some AI technology. Here they used some 4K restoration, and it basically made the film look like it originally looked, and maybe even better. The grain's very nicely intact. They did a nice job with the 4K restoration on the film. I would recommend it for that purpose. And really, I would recommend checking the film out anyway, just because it is so, in a way, gonzo. It's such a mix of different types of stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and rate Vinegar Syndrome's packaging. I think they did a good job. I'm going to give them a 4. And as far as the film, I'm going to give it a 3. Let me know what you think, and let me know as far as what you think, what your favorite werewolf movies are. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't done so already, if you will like this video and subscribe.